World finance. Pulse opens with intentional reflection because those currently invested in Iraqi dinar deserve transparent answers rather than confusion. The date is February 1st, 2026, and the importance of this conversation extends beyond conjecture to actual protection. Throughout digital platforms, direct communications, and voice exchanges, deceptive currency proposals are multiplying more rapidly than authenticated information. Numerous propositions appear refined, authoritative, and time-sensitive, though their true intention lacks transparency. This presentation aims to decelerate the narrative and substitute coercion with understanding. What you will encounter is a thorough examination of why numerous fraudulent currency proposals seem convincing, how they replicate authentic financial operations, and which indicators distinguish credible organizations from deceptive outreach. The objective remains neither generating anxiety nor enthusiasm, but delivering substantiated knowledge so audiences can identify danger and safeguard themselves through confirmation, restraint, and established procedures instead of impulse. The explanation for why so many counterfeit currency narratives attract attention is straightforward. They construct frameworks around confidence and immediacy, two elements individuals inherently desire when finances are at stake. Deceptive communications frequently duplicate the external characteristics of genuine organizations, incorporating recognizable branding, corporate vocabulary, and digital addresses that approximate institutional formats. Representatives may present themselves with designations suggesting expertise or privileged information while strategically omitting anything independently confirmable. These methodologies are engineered to generate forward motion before inquiries can emerge. Conversely, authentic financial organizations function deliberately and transparently, governed by regulatory frameworks and documentation protocols. They never depend on confidentiality or time pressure to communicate procedural modifications. Comprehending this distinction is fundamental because the framework of the communication often exposes more than the claim contained within. Another element generating uncertainty is how fraudsters appropriate genuine banking vocabulary and reconstruct it into deceptive storylines. Terms including consultation, exclusive registry, preferential valuation, or priority participation are strategically selected because they resonate as reasonable to individuals aware that financial institutions employ sophisticated mechanisms. Nevertheless, authentic banks never distribute unpublished valuations to private parties or function through selective invitation-based currency transactions. When procedures evolve, those evolutions are broadcast through authorized platforms and implemented uniformly. Fraudulent operators manipulate partial realities such as the presence of institutional assessments or platform modifications and amplify them into assertions of instant availability. This distortion succeeds because it positions itself sufficiently near to truth to appear legitimate despite lacking official substantiation. Vocabulary itself becomes a significant indicator when assessing these assertions. Authentic institutional representatives employ deliberate, balanced terminology reflecting regulatory boundaries. Declarations such as a currency being unavailable, limited, or undergoing evaluation are informational, not anticipatory. They describe existing conditions without suggesting eventual developments. Fraudsters, conversely, typically reduce complexity into effective determinations. They communicate confidently about results rather than methodologies, frequently bypassing compliance, authentication, or statutory obligations. This differentiation carries weight because banking discourse is influenced by responsibility. Organizations must validate every statement they release, whereas fraudsters depend on verbal commitments that vanish when challenged. Uncertainty frequently escalates when individuals learn that institutional banking frameworks or designations have transformed. Major financial enterprises utilize platforms to classify currencies according to functionality, oversight, and exposure. A modification in designation, such as transitioning from dormant to assessment phase, may influence how personnel address questions. This can be misconstrued as an indication of approaching accessibility. In actuality, such modifications represent standard evaluations that transpire well before any consumer-facing implementation. Financial institutions consistently prepare for various contingencies, numerous, which never materialize into available services. Preparation does not signify permission, and institutional validation does not equal public accessibility. Fraudsters manipulate this interval by portraying routine operational activity as confirmation of implementation. Despite no authorized declaration existing, when genuine modifications transpire, they remain observable and confirmable. Authorized banking or regulatory communications are distributed through established platforms, encompassing media statements, oversight bulletins, and modifications on organizational websites. These announcements maintain consistency across mediums and supply distinct verification pathways for authentication. They never arrive through private channels or unexpected communications. Fraudulent proposals frequently replicate the character of these declarations, but omit essential components such as documentation identifiers, confirmable locations, or connections matching authorized domains. The omission of these components is intentional, permits fraudsters to circumvent responsibility while manufacturing the appearance of authenticity. Time sensitivity represents one of the most dependable warning indicators in these circumstances. Communications that stress cutoff times, restricted availability, or terminating opportunities are constructed to circumvent confirmation. Authentic financial protocols never disadvantage individuals for allocating time to validate details. Financial institutions anticipate inquiries, examinations, and documentation verification. When someone maintains that immediate action is required to obtain an advantage, that coercion itself becomes proof of exploitation. Effective responses, whether enthusiasm or apprehension, diminish the probability of methodical evaluation. Identifying this configuration enables individuals to suspend action and recover authority over the assessment process. Particular warning indicators surface consistently in fraudulent currency situations. Unexpected communication frequently represents the initial signal. Another involves the demand for advance payments, characterized as administrative expenses or deposits. Recognized financial institutions never require exceptional prepayments for conventional currency operations. Demands to transfer resources through non-institutional platforms, including private intermediaries or digital accounts disconnected from acknowledged organizations, are similarly prevalent. Confidentiality represents another persistent element. When someone requests discretion or discourages independent validation, it indicates that confirmation would reveal the deception. Each of these indicators independently warrants vigilance, but collectively they establish a definitive configuration of exposure. Confirmation is not a complicated endeavor, but it demands consistency. Any assertion involving a financial institution or oversight body can be examined through publicly accessible contact details. Authorized websites display customer support communications, location information, and released statements. Contacting these resources directly eliminates the influence of third parties. Written materials should incorporate identifiable components that can be cross-referenced, not merely branding or endorsements. Preserving documentation of exchanges, including digital correspondence and communication logs, establishes a record that can be examined or disclosed if required. These measures represent standard protocol in authentic financial interactions and should never be opposed by a legitimate organization. Documentation maintenance fulfills a more substantial function than many individuals acknowledge. Possessing foreign currency, whether tangible or electronic, necessitates diligence. Verification receipts, acquisition timestamps, identification numbers, and exchange documentation establish possession and validity. If regulations eventually transform, these materials are what organizations will require. They remain equally critical if deception occurs, as enforcement depends on documentation to examine and recuperate damages. Sustaining structured documentation diminishes anxiety and prevents hasty choices motivated by ambiguity. This protocol is not conjectural. It represents administrative readiness. When authentic currency regulation modifications materialize, they adhere to organized protocols. Governments and monetary authorities release frameworks, establish schedules, and synchronize with financial organizations to oversee adherence. These protocols incorporate documentation, authentication procedures, and accessible guidance. They are never confidential, and they are seldom rapid. Any account that commits immediate results without recognizing regulation, financial obligations, or statutory examination is incompatible with how financial frameworks function. Comprehending this reality assists in establishing reasonable anticipations and diminishes susceptibility to exaggerated assertions. Adherence obligations are frequently misunderstood or disregarded in fraudulent accounts. Financial crime prevention regulations mandate banks to authenticate the origin of resources and the identification of participants. This can necessitate comprehensive documentation and processing intervals. These protections benefit both organizations and participants. Fraudsters frequently minimize or dismiss these obligations because acknowledging them would undermine the commitment of velocity and simplicity. Recognition of adherence procedures facilitates identification of communications that exclude fundamental steps. Numerous fraudulent presentations depend on recognizable narratives. Assertions of privileged connections, exclusive participant assemblies, or assured valuations surface regularly. These accounts are constructed to appear selective while remaining ambiguous. Authentic financial operations never function on individual commitments from unidentified persons. Permission originates from organizations, not individual associations. Identifying these narratives diminishes the likelihood of being influenced by repetition or collective validation. Data communication and digital platforms introduce another dimension of complexity. Identification, manipulation, and counterfeit accounts can render fraudulent contact seemingly genuine. Digital applications enable swift circulation of materials and audio recordings that replicate authorized communication. The most secure response is to disengage and establish contact independently through confirmed platforms. Authority over the communication pathway represents a substantial protective mechanism. If someone believes they have been approached, prompt response carries significance. Terminating communication, preserving documentation, and contacting financial institutions and enforcement can constrain consequences. Disclosure is not acknowledgement of vulnerability. It represents an action that contributes to comprehensive prevention initiatives. Financial organizations and oversight bodies rely on disclosures to recognize configurations and dismantle fraudulent operations. Anticipations similarly deserve recalibration. Even authentic modifications in currency regulation are influenced by oversight, economic circumstances, and international arrangements. Results are seldom consistent or instantaneous. Depending on a singular speculative situation, amplifies exposure. Measured financial preparation and variation of anticipations diminish effective coercion and render individuals less vulnerable to convincing approaches. Community interactions fulfill a function as well. Fraudsters frequently approach collectives and discussion spaces, utilizing manufactured endorsements to establish credibility. Promoting confirmation within communities assists in neutralizing this influence. Requesting authorized references and discouraging confidentiality safeguards not only individuals, but the assembly as a whole. Disclosure procedures vary by jurisdiction, but participant protection organizations, financial institutions, and law enforcement all supply platforms for submitting details. Prompt disclosure enhances the likelihood of intervention and assists enforcement in mapping fraudulent enterprises. Silence enables fraudulent operations to proliferate. Documentation assists in terminating them. Protection extends beyond exchanges to preservation. Physical instruments should be maintained in protected environments and digital documentation, secured with robust authentication. Excessive disclosure of details digitally can expose individuals to customized fraudulent operations. Fundamental protection protocols diminish the probability of being identified. Family discussions about finances can be delicate, particularly when optimism or concern is present. Promoting shared confirmation and openness diminishes the likelihood of isolated determinations. Authentic protocols allow duration for conversation. Confidentiality advantages only those implementing coercion. Multiple persistent misconceptions continue to propagate. Confidential institutional registries, exclusive participant acquisitions, and assured conversions are not characteristics of supervised financial frameworks. Comprehending why these assertions contradict institutional protocol renders them simpler to dismiss. A straightforward confirmation communication can resolve most circumstances. Contacting an organization through its released contact and requesting substantiation generates a transparent response. Authentic entities embrace this methodology because it corresponds with adherence expectations. For those who select to maintain currency, extended planning carries importance. preservation, documentation, and systematic examination of authorized developments supply steadiness. Conjecture without framework generates susceptibility. In conclusion, the most productive protection is a composed, systematic methodology, disregarding unexpected proposals, confirming through authorized platforms, sustaining documentation, and disclosing questionable activity. Establish a functional framework. Restraint maintains alternatives, while immediacy eliminates them. World Finance Pulse promotes audiences to distribute authenticated details, challenge confidentiality, and support one another through openness. Fraudulent operations depend on velocity and discretion. Confirmation and transparency eliminate their capability. Thank you for observing and for dedicating the duration to remain educated and cautious. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a topic that has the financial world buzzing with anticipation. The massive global financial shift on the horizon. We'll be looking at everything from currency reevaluations, like those anticipated for the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong, to how banks are gearing up, what you need to know about cybersecurity, and most importantly, how to prepare for what's coming. This is a big one, so grab a notepad and let's get started. First, let's set the stage. We're not just talking about minor market fluctuations. What many experts are pointing to is a fundamental restructuring of the global financial system. Think of it as a major software update for the world's economy. This shift is expected to level the playing field, moving away from a system dominated by a single currency towards a more balanced, asset-backed model. Countries are repositioning themselves, and this transition involves a significant revaluation of various international currencies that have been historically undervalued. At the heart of these discussions are the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. For years, investors and analysts have watched these currencies closely. The speculation is that as their respective economies stabilize and grow, their currencies will be revalued to reflect their true economic strength. Iraq, with its vast oil reserves, has been working on economic reforms and rebuilding its infrastructure. A revaluation of the dinar would be a signal that the country has turned a corner, reintegrating fully into the global economy with a currency that reflects its resource wealth. It's not just about oil. It's about stability, governance, and a vision for the future. Similarly, Vietnam has become a manufacturing powerhouse. Its economy has been one of the fastest growing in the world, attracting significant foreign investment. The Vietnamese Dong, however, has remained at a very low value. A revaluation would align its currency with its impressive economic output and its growing role in international trade. It's a logical next step for an economy that has consistently proven its resilience and potential. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's based on tangible economic progress and strategic national planning. So how are the banks preparing for such a monumental event? Behind the scenes, financial institutions are in a state of high alert and preparation. Sources within the banking industry suggest that major banks have been undergoing extensive training and system upgrades. Tellers, wealth managers, and back-office staff are being briefed on new protocols for currency exchanges and handling large transaction volumes. They're re-preparing for what could be an unprecedented influx of customers looking to exchange currencies like the dinar and dong. Think about it. This isn't your typical foreign exchange transaction. We're talking about a potential revaluation event, which requires specialized procedures. Banks are setting up designated currency redemption centers and ensuring their systems can handle the new exchange rates smoothly and securely. This level of preparation is a strong indicator that the financial industry is taking these developments very seriously. They're not just waiting to see what happens. They're actively building the infrastructure to manage the change when it arrives. Now let's talk about something incredibly important: cybersecurity. Whenever there's a major financial event, it's like a magnet for scammers and cybercriminals. They will try to exploit the excitement and confusion. You need to be extremely vigilant. Be wary of unsolicited emails, texts, or social media messages promising guaranteed returns or inside information about the revaluation. These are almost always scams designed to steal your personal information or your money. Here are a few key tips to stay safe. First, only trust official sources. Get your information from reputable financial news outlets and official government or bank websites. Second, never share your personal banking details, passwords, or currency certificate numbers with anyone online or over the phone. A legitimate bank will never ask for this information in an unsolicited communication. Third, use strong, unique passwords for your online banking accounts and enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. It adds a crucial layer of security. The goal is to be informed and prepared, not paranoid, but a healthy dose of skepticism can save you a world of trouble. Okay, let's imagine the moment has arrived. The revaluation has been announced. What happens next? This is where understanding the redemption procedures is key. It's not going to be a free-for-all. There will be a structured process. Initially, you'll likely need to book an appointment at a designated redemption center. These centers will be equipped to verify the authenticity of your currency notes. This is a critical step, so make sure your currency is legitimate and in good condition. When you go to your appointment, you'll need to bring your currency, proper identification, and possibly proof of purchase. The process will involve the bank verifying your notes and then exchanging them for your local currency at the new official rate. You'll likely be presented with several options for how you receive your funds. You might have them deposited directly into a bank account, or you could explore various investment vehicles offered by the bank's wealth management division. The key is to have your documents in order and to have a clear plan before you even walk in the door. This brings us to our final and most crucial point: financial planning. Sudden influx of wealth can be overwhelming, and without a solid plan, it can disappear just as quickly as it arrived. This is not just about getting rich. It's about creating lasting financial security for yourself and your family. The first thing you should do is take a deep breath and resist the urge to make any immediate large purchases. Let the reality of the situation sink in. Next, assemble a team of trusted professionals. This should include a certified financial planner, a tax specialist, and a reputable attorney. These experts will help you navigate the complexities of managing newfound wealth. They can help you create a diversified investment portfolio, which is essential. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Diversification means spreading your assets across stocks, bonds, real estate, and other investments to manage risk and ensure long-term growth. Your financial planner will help you define your long-term goals. Do you want to retire early? Fund your children's education, start a business, support a charity. Having clear goals will shape your financial strategy. Your tax specialist is equally important. A large financial windfall comes with significant tax implications. A tax expert can help you structure your finances in a way that minimizes your tax burden legally and efficiently. Finally, an attorney can help with estate planning, setting up trusts, and protecting your assets for future generations. It's also a moment for personal reflection. What kind of life do you want to live? Wealth provides opportunities, but it doesn't automatically create happiness. Think about your values and how you can use these new resources to live a more fulfilling life. Perhaps it's about having more time with family, pursuing a passion project, or making a positive impact on the world. This holistic approach to financial planning ensures that your wealth serves you, not the other way around. To wrap it all up, we are on the cusp of a potentially historic global financial shift. Currencies like the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong are at the center of this transformation, with banks making serious preparations behind the scenes. Your job is to stay informed, prioritize cybersecurity, understand the redemption procedures, and most importantly, start building a solid financial plan now. Don't wait until after the event to think about these things. Preparation is everything, and by being proactive, you can position yourself to navigate this transition smoothly and turn this opportunity into a foundation for lasting prosperity. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I know we covered a lot, but this is a conversation that needs to be had. If you found this information valuable, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more updates. And please, share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue this discussion together. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.